Wonderful. Welcome to Together Women Rise's webinar. I'm Melinda Silverstein, and I'm on the board of directors for Together Women Rise, and also a member of the chapter in Santa Cruz, California. Some logistics about Zoom meetings, which you all are probably certified experts at this point. But at this time, if you could mute your Zoom setting. And in the chat, if you would go ahead and put your name and what chapter you're involved with, what area. And you can choose either the speaker or the gallery view, whatever is better for you. And do we have any newbies on this? We're a small enough group. I'm not sure if we have that information. So let me just say a little bit about Together Women Rise. You all are pros and know this forwards and backwards, but as a thumbnail sketch, Together Women Rise is a powerful community of women and allies dedicated to achieving global gender equality. We have hundreds of local chapters across the US where members learn about gender equality issues, give grants to organizations that empower women and girls in low-income countries, and build community to forge meaningful connections with each other and with women and girls around the world. And our website has lots more if you want more information. And before we launch into our wonderful program tonight, I wanted to just share that for this week, Giving Tuesday, there's a $95,000 match from some generous donors, and that runs through December 13th. An annual appeal donations made during this time will be matched up to that total of $95,000. We're so thankful for those donors. And it's a wonderful way for you to double your gift and make an even larger impact. And Wendy will put the donations link in the chat if that might be helpful. Let's start the program. And I'll first say I'm probably mispronouncing names, but this is the program where each month Together Women Rise features a project that addresses one of the many challenges faced by women and girls in low-income countries around the world. And those grants are between $35,000 and $50,000. The one that we are featuring tonight with Actera, we funded $49,198, so just a few dollars shy of $50,000. And Actera supports the education of marginalized girls from the largest and poorest slum communities of India. This project uses academic and non-academic interventions that are designed to build community investment in the long-term goals of the girls. And we will play a short video, and then I'll introduce our guest speakers. On the video is a charming, well-spoken grade 7 student, Sophia Khatun, that really showcases what wonderful programs like this can do for young women. So, shall we start the program?
I am in grade 10. My journey started from 2014 in Ektara. Ektara supports in every way possible. I aspire to become a doctor. I am Sufia Khatun in grade 7. I am thankful to Ektara for supporting me in academics in every way possible. I aim to become a teacher in future. I am in dance, karate and elocution club as well.
So, I think I was watching a different recording of some other aspect of Aktara, but that was really amazing to see the statistics of the people who are affected and how they are supported by Aktara. Tonight, we are pleased to have two people, Vinita Saraf and Manjusmita Bagchi. And Vinita is the founder, managing director of Aktara, with a commitment to creating educated youth from first-generation learners. Vinita has designed high-quality, cost-effective programs. Vinita uses an eclectic approach tailored to the unique needs of every individual. She strives to enhance girls' self-esteem via education in Eastern India's largest slum area. Manjusmita is the director of programs and fundraising for Aktara and has close to a decade's experience in the development of this sector, and her focus has been on facilitating delivery of high-quality learning resources to vulnerable girls living in high-risk zones, such as urban slums. After heading Aktara's education program, she moved to become the associate director and thereafter director of the organization. Since then, she has worked on program development and scaling of operations at Aktara, in addition to working closely with the founder trustees on furthering Aktara's mission. Welcome, Vinita and Manjusmita. Sorry about the pronunciation of names. Could you tell me how to pronounce your names?
So mine is right. It is Vinita.
Vinita.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And I am Manjusmita.
Manjusmita. Wonderful. Would you like to have some further comments about the work that you've done? And you're such an inspiration to us all.
So I'll just start with just telling everyone about, why we chose the area and what we are doing and what is the demographic of the community we work with. So that'll give you a little idea about the work that is being done. And then Manjusmita will give you more details about the programs that we are running. So we are two co-founders. Me and my co-founder have been we've known each other for the last 40 years, but we started working together. We came into the development space because we were just helping out in a nonprofit school where we were teaching when our children were very young. And then we were on the board of another nonprofit that work against trafficking. However, when we realized that, we really wanted to do some grassroots work and not work on administration and advocacy and the other layers of development. So we started our own nonprofit with a small group of about 20 women back in 2011. We had no intention at that point to scale it to the level we are today. We had no intention of making it like a complete holistic education program. So if you ask what was your vision when you joined Iktara, when you started Iktara, the vision was just to help the women and the children who needed us, and something that we could do because we had the privilege to do something for those people whom we had been watching since we were children. So as we grew up, we've been seeing poverty and everything. So it was just a chance for us to do something. And that was the only vision we had at that point. And we started working with these women, and we started teaching them some skill building and some developing some vocational training programs. When they came back to us and told us that, it's really our children who need the support, because the area that we are working in had no government schools of any quality, no other education system which would provide them anything that they needed. Moreover, we are working with an extremely highly patriarchal society. And as Melinda has already mentioned, it is the poorest and the most challenging community of Eastern India. So it is a very large slum area. And the communities that live there are migrant minority communities that have moved in from neighboring states and to run the leather industry, which was there a couple of decades back. Just to answer Mary's question on the chat box, Ektara means a star. One star, Ek is one and Tara is a star. I was coming to that. And Ektara means that every child in Ektara, when we started, we had 20 and now we have 1,500. Every child in Ektara will be a star, must be a star. We think that every child is born with the same talent and the same destiny that we have had, but our children have had, but we really have to shape that destiny for them. So we are going to make each one of them into a star. Going back to what we did in our program was, as I said, 2011, we started working with these communities and we started just teaching their children, maybe a little creche we started where the kids used to come and study and go back. But as you went along the years, we saw that the problem was far more deep-rooted than what we had envisaged and what we had seen on the surface of it, because there was not just patriarchy, but there was a huge, there was alcohol abuse, drug abuse, there was a huge unemployment in the community because the fathers were not working. They had been unemployed for a couple of decades. And so they had resorted to alcoholism, domestic violence, sexual abuse, and every kind of abuse in the community was there. So it is the hub or the den of crime in the area. So, there's theft, there's burglary, everything emanates from here. So it was very, very difficult for us when we stepped in because the men were not at all responsive to having us there. The women were scared to come out of their homes to come to us, and they were really worried to put their daughters into school. The boys were still getting an education because they were going to either the municipal schools or the government schools or even local good schools, which are not very expensive, but the girls were completely devoid of any education. That is the point when we stepped in. And we ourselves were getting threatened every day by saying, that this is not what you're supposed to do and you are not supposed to be here. You should just go back home. But I don't know what it was, what kept us still going, what kept us there. It was definitely some amount of determination backed with a lot of, I think, faith in what we were doing. And we just kept going every day, and it was just meant to happen. As the years went by, we got other people to come in. We had people like Manjusmita who joined us in our journey, and it just didn't go back. And we started our own schooling then, because we were at that point putting kids into other schools. And we thought the best way to do it was, because we didn't have the capacity to run our own education system, we were sending out kids from the creche to other neighboring schools where they would continue their education. Then we realized, when we had a formidable team, which was my co-founder, me, Manjusmita, and a couple of others, we had a formidable team that took a conscious decision to start our own education program, to start our own learning. And it was at that point that we thought, that we must write down or note down all that we have done to bring up our own children. So it was literally the pros and cons of bringing up our children, everything that goes in. It's the school, it's the parent, it's the community around us, it's the families around us. There are so many people contributing to the upbringing of a child. But here are these children, thousands and thousands of children who have no contribution from anybody, and they are just, it's really difficult. So we decided to make a list, and we are now doing every single thing that a child requires in a journey of growing up. We are providing, it's a very holistic program. It is not just academics. It is, as you said, a non-academic component as well. So we have a very high quality English medium education. Along with it, we have all the support activities. We provide a hot meal every day. We provide snacks in the morning. We have a health intervention, hygiene intervention, social skill development. And I will leave Manjusmita to tell you more about the program, and then we can open up to questions.
Thank you.
Right. So as Mrs. Saraf mentioned, our model is that of a holistic development for every child who comes into the Ektara system. While the focus is on high quality, English medium education, and there are very, good academic interventions in place, we work around their health requirements, their hygiene requirements. We also have a nutrition program where we look into what they need in terms of their meals, supplements. We also work extensively with parents. Because again, like Mrs. Saraf mentioned, we realize that just enabling a child to go to school when they are first generation school goers is not enough. Their home environment needs to be conducive to it. Their community needs to be supportive of it, which is why we have a very big program on parental engagement and community welfare. So how our programs are divided in Ektara is that we have our learning center, where we start with the pre-primary section, which is our early childhood learning center, where children as young as 3 years are enrolled. And from there, they graduate into our primary and middle school project. So they stay within the learning center right from grade 1 to grade 7. And after grade 7, they are transitioned into our school support program, which is basically program where children after grade 7 are enrolled into partner schools around the city for them to complete their senior school and high secondary examinations. Together Women Rise is supporting us for the school support program, because these girls are at a pivotal point in their journey where they need that support to finish school and then move into college. So when a child comes into Ektara, our commitment is to see them right till they're ready to move into college, and thereafter also support them in their college education or vocational training, whatever it may be. Because for us, our goal is to really see that these girls grow up to make informed life decisions. Employability definitely is a key indicator of how they choose to put their education to use, but it's not the only indicator for success for us. Even if they choose to go ahead, get married, have lesser number of children, lead a better quality of life, have more control over their family dynamics, all of these also go into in a way validating the work that we've been doing with them. So these are activities that go on in the learning center. Coupled, with all of these academic interventions, we have a lot of focus on co-curricular activities. So every child has access to, whether it's dance, music, theater, because not all children are academically inclined, and we believe in giving them access to opportunities and resources where they can really, nurture and find the talents that they have and do well in it, which also encourages them to stay back in school and not drop out. And then we have our community center, where basically we work with mothers. We train older siblings of the children. So we have an income generation program. We have a fully industrial kitchen kitchen which is operated by, which is run by mothers, and this kitchen is the one that provides meals to all our children every single day. So yes, I mean, which is why all our programs, whether it's the learning center or the community center, they're geared to enable girls and women to not just pick up skills but also exercise them and get some training and then move into better spaces if possible. I see there is a question. What have been some of your greatest challenges and some of your greatest achievements? Can you share some success stories of graduates of the program? So I'll take the first part, and then maybe Mrs. Saraf, you can talk about some of the success stories. I think as far as challenges are concerned, the biggest was to convince fathers and other male members of the community the need for them to realize the need to educate their girls. That took us many years. When we first started in 2011, we had to do extensive outreach work where we were practically going from door to door asking for families to send their girls to school, because otherwise these girls were just not attending any form of formal education, and there was a lot of resistance around it. Most men, in fact, sometimes even mothers, because they were so under the control of their in-laws, were not really open to sending their children to school. So that was one of our biggest challenges, to kind of convince the members of the community that educating their girls is as important as educating their boys. That was a challenge, and I think it's unfair to say that we've overcome it fully, but we have definitely seen a lot of change in how male members view girls today, and this is something that we can say for a fact, because every time we open out admissions, which is in the time of around November, December every year, we have for about 100 seats, we get applications in the range of about 1,200 to 1,300. So that's how much demand there is now, which is quite a dramatic shift from the initial years where we were literally knocking on doors for people to send their girls to us. So that has been one challenge. Fundraising, of course, continues to be a challenge, because ours is a grassroots organization that is also implementing the program. So we run our own facilities, we run our own, our service model includes running of whether it's the meal program, the school program, whatever it is. So fundraising also is one of our challenges. And as far as achievements go, I think, again, the challenge that I was talking about, to see how some parents have shifted their mindset, that has been an achievement for us. To see that, there is demand from the community for them to now want to educate their girls, that is an achievement for us. In fact, so much so that we've had so much demand from the community that we've also started working with municipal schools, with government schools in our area, to kind of, improve their infrastructure, improve their delivery systems. So we are working on teacher trainings with them. So for us to accommodate all of the children who live in the area is definitely not possible. But because of the need and the demand that we've seen from the community, it's kind of pushed us to also look at government schools or public schools in the area and work with them to kind of, for them to improve their facilities so they can take on more children. So these are, some challenges and achievements. Mrs. Saraf, over to you for some success stories.
Thank you, Manjusmita. So, we have so many success stories, but I'll just pick out a couple of them at every age to give you an indicator of how children are impacted at ages. So as Manjusmita mentioned, we start from a pre-primary and go up to middle school and high school, and then we have the older girls and the women whom we've employed. So if we look at the school children, you noticed on the video that you saw that there were these two girls who were very coherent and articulate in how they were speaking, and these girls are the ones who are a little brighter. So what we do is, when we have kids who are bright, we put them into mainstream schools, which are really good quality, like schools that we've been to. They also reach out and take some of our children. And these children are doing very well academically. And we are hoping that, at some point when they finish school, as they grow up, they will be able to really carve out a life for themselves. And for example, Sufia has been the child of a single parent. She only has a father. Her mother died when she was a child, like maybe 2 years or 3 years. So he is one of the rare fathers who came up and said that he wants to educate his children and his daughter. And she has been brought up just by a father in the middle middle of a community where the males are, all like, so many of them are abusing their own daughters, but this father has been exemplary in the way he has brought up his child, and this child is now doing everything. She wants to be a scientist, she's going to a very good school, she's speaking so confidently. So definitely when children are encouraged and their self-esteem goes up and they get the support of their parent, there is definitely a very, there's a shift in the mindset of the families. Secondly, if you see a little older children, as the children grow up, the older children, we've had many cases where the father has insisted that the child cannot continue school. So for example, we had this young girl who wanted to go to college and after schooling, and then she came back and said she wanted to go to college, but her father, who is a tea stall owner in our community, he came and said that no, she cannot study any further and she needs to get married because she was all of 15 or 16. And so she must get married as per the norms, because the more people they have in the house, the more mouths they have to feed. So they either want to just get them married early to reduce the burden on the family, and because they themselves are not earning, it's mostly the fathers who've lost their jobs. So this young girl defied all norms of the family. She went to college with our assistance. We put her through college, and after college, she has got a fantastic job, and now she works in the day, and on weekends she comes to support Iktara by, like working with the kids and doing all of that. So she's really a very good example of how education can transform the mindset of a parent, a male parent in such a patriarchal society. So we've also had groups of girls, who for some reason could not continue studies. So they were either academically not strong enough to continue, so they are school dropouts, or their parents, this is when we had not started our intervention, there were parents who could not afford to send these girls to school or did not want to send these girls to school. So you have these huge pool of girls in the community who have dropped out at grade 5, 6, 7, or even maybe 8, 9 also. So what we do is we have consciously decided to identify these girls in the community, bring them to Iktara and train them in different capacities to take on roles within the system, and they get a salary which they take back home. There have been plenty of success stories in these, because these girls do not want to marry young. They do want to have an income, and they do want, for them, speaking in English or working on a computer is a huge success for them. They really feel that we are educated. If we can speak English, we can understand English, or we can do things on the computer. So this training is something we have really emphasized on with this group of young girls who were school dropouts. We bring them in. There are girls who've been trained in data entry. There are girls who are running, heading programs. Like Manjusmita mentioned, we have a hygiene program. We have a health program. We have a kitchen running. So these girls have been allotted specific responsibilities, and each of them are looking into some responsibility. We have this girl, Razia, who was married when she was very young, 16 or 17, and she had a child when she was 18, and her husband was an abuser. He abused her. So she kind of, he just left her and went away with a child when she was 18. It was at that point that she came to us and she asked us for help. We just took her in as a teacher at that point, because at a teacher helper, because we couldn't see much else. But we realized her skill in taking care of the children and empathy for the children. So we made her do a nursing course. She did a full nursing course while her child was in school with us. And now she is a qualified registered nurse. She heads the health program of all the 1,500 children in Iktara. In her spare time, she goes out into the community. She helps other people. During COVID, she was absolutely a stalwart in the community. She used to go house to house. She was helping people, getting medicines for them. She really was a change maker inside the community. Her leadership has inspired so many people within the community, so many girls, that her husband has come back to her and said, that I want to be with you again. But she has defined the lines very clearly. And although she cannot deny him the presence in her life because of who she is or where she comes from, that's a cultural impact more than anything else. She has defined the lines in which she says that, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. This is what my daughter is going to do. I'm going to bring money for these reasons. And you can be in the same house, but this is what you need to do. So they are calling the shots, which is a really, really a big deal. And we are so proud of these girls. So, these are just some of the examples. And I think we'll take questions now before we go into other examples. I see that Jennifer has raised her hand.
I'm so impressed. I think your persistence and your energy and your passion about this is really very clear. It comes through. One of the things that I heard you talking about is the fathers and their reaction. I'm curious, often this is generational. How are young men reacting to this? Do you begin to see change in attitude?
Manjusmita?
Yes. So we do see the parents of the youngest group of children that we work with, which is the pre-primary group, which are very young parents, some of them in their early 20s. And definitely we see a shift in how these young men view, education for their daughters. In the initial years, even at the pre-primary level, we wouldn't see fathers coming, showing up for meetings, or even trying to get their daughters admitted. But now in the last 4 or 5 years, we see more of these young men coming forward, attending meetings, taking an active interest. Also, what has happened is during COVID, because, for the first time, these parents were able to participate directly in their child's learning. I think we were able to kind of have a more active buy-in from them. We did not have online education so much because, of course, our families couldn't afford internet and, phone connectivity. And these were issues that we were grappling with. So what we did was we were running tele classes where the teachers would call up every day, and give instructions to either the students, or for the younger children, it was the parents, and give them, assign them tasks. And we were also doing a lot of food distribution. So what was happening was we would send worksheets with the food material, and then every time they'd come back to collect food, they'd drop off the worksheets, which then the teachers would correct. And, again, on the phone, they would give feedback. So because the mothers and the fathers for the first time were the educators, at home, we saw a lot of participation from the younger men, especially. So whether it was, making projects around, carpentry, or whatever it was, designing your own restaurant, because we did all kinds of fun activities to engage even the parents, because we realized for them to do, traditional English, math, science, obviously would not be possible. So it had to be project-based learning, where even the families, even the parents could bring in, their understanding of the world around them. So definitely there has been a shift, and we see that in the young men. Having said that, time will tell what their position is when the girls grow up, because a lot changes when these girls, hit adolescence, and that's when they're expected to drop out of school, look after the younger siblings, and or in worst case scenarios, often also sent back to their native place. So hopefully with these young men, we will not see, this crop up too much, but we are hopeful that it won't be as bad as it is with the current generation of middle-aged men or older men.
So when you say young men, I was kind of curious about what, like the brothers,
okay,
the siblings of. So are young men who are growing up in this environment too, are they beginning to see and make changes in their attitudes about women? About their
Yes, that's a very good question. So in the initial years, actually, this was a bone of contention with the families, because they were like, if you're going to give our girls such good quality education, what's going to happen to our boys? Because we definitely think they're more worthy of it. So in the initial years of our operation, we had to kind of, just to get the parents to, cooperate with us and to send their girls, we did take in boys as well in the initial years. And then about 5 years ago, we stopped that completely. And so the boys who were in our system continue to be supported by us, of course. But since then, we've not enrolled any new boys. Currently, what happens is when we call, when we have meetings with parents, we see older brothers, older siblings come in, sometimes attend these meetings, also take an interest in, how their sisters or how their younger siblings are shaping up and what they require. But as at the community level, we've not really worked extensively with the boys, because there are other organizations that work, with them on vocational training or skill building, but gender sensitization or just, giving that support at home, these are conversations that we constantly have with every family member. So we definitely see some young men they're more they're appreciative of the fact that their sisters also get similar education, sometimes better quality education, sometimes some of them, because the boys in most cases have to be the breadwinners of the family. So by the time they are in their mid-teens or late teens, they, along with education, they also start picking up jobs. But sometimes we've seen that these boys encourage their younger siblings to their sisters to continue education and to at least finish school and move on to college. So that's reassuring to see. But of course, this is not a trend that we see across all families, but it is on the rise for sure.
But at the same time, I want to add that, whatever changes there may be, the responsibility of the house and the chores of the house still rests on the girl. So there are very large families. Sometimes there's one sister with 5 brothers and a father, or 6 girls, 6 men in the house and only 2 women in the house. So whatever it may be, even if the child has to go to school, she still needs to go and get the water. She still needs to make the food. She has to do all the work, all the chores in the morning before she can get to school. So there, there are the dynamics is such that there are no differences as yet. She has to feed the family. When she goes back, she has to literally serve food to every member of the family. So these dynamics have not changed at all. So it is still the men, whether they work or they don't work, whether they're just sitting and lounging around in the lanes and the by lanes of the community, they still will not do any kind of housework to support the women in the family. So those dynamics just don't change. I think they're culturally ingrained in their system, and it's very hard now to convince them otherwise. So I saw that Wendy has a question about the application. So, the application and the admission process in Ektara is extremely complicated, like you can guess, because from 1,200 applications to narrow it down to 100 seats. So I think Manjusmita will give you a little detail on, because we can go into like a thesis on how we do the admissions. But in short, I think she can just tell you how we deal with it.
So we have almost close to a 6-month-long admission process where we start with inviting of applications, and we ask parents to come and drop their applications, and then we basically do several rounds of home visits and parental interactions to see how invested they are, and also to gauge that they are they are families that need our support the most. We only work with families who cannot afford to send their children to any school, and which is why vetting their income level, vetting their financial conditions is very, very important. And while we have documentation to kind of verify that, there is nothing like actual home visits to really show what their actual conditions are. So we do several rounds of that. Sometimes they are announced home visits, so they know, the families know that that we are coming. Sometimes they're unannounced, so just so we really know what their conditions are, because in the past it's happened many times that we've when we've announced, we've told them we are coming, we've seen a certain way of living, and then somebody else has come and reported to us saying that okay, they basically use somebody else's home to kind of show that they were more needy, or they were more that economic condition was not as good, so which is why we now have a series of these home visits, and we have indicators again to check to determine what their financial status is, so whether they have a refrigerator, whether they have a gas connection. So there are different ways for us to understand what the actual economic condition of the family is. Thereafter, because we take in children only at the age of 3, we do a very basic screening of the children to see if they have any learning disabilities, because we are not in a position to take on children who perhaps require further assistance. So the assessment of the children is a very small part of our admission process. It's just to ensure that we take in children who we can really work with. And the most important component is the parental engagement, the parents' interviews, where we basically talk to them again and again. And this is mothers, fathers, sometimes even grandparents, to understand how they see their children growing up, because in the initial years we see a lot of interest. Everyone wants to put their girls in school because the mothers get some free time. It's very good when they see infants or young children speaking in English, so everyone really likes that. But the minute they are they're about 10, 11, 12, that's when the situations change quite dramatically. So we do a lot of questions around, how do you see your daughter when she's in middle school? Would you be allowing her to go out and play sports? What if she's stepping out of the house wearing shorts? So these are conditions that there are a lot of these questions that we and while sometimes they may say yes, you can make out from the body language or the family dynamics how much they are willing to push themselves to kind of enable the child to go ahead and continue in the environments, in the situations that we project for the child. So these are some ways in which we do in which we kind of select children. It is a very, very long process, and it involves several people, in fact, and we work with a lot of volunteer mothers as well during this phase, who participate in the home visits or who come and give us reports on, okay, yes, because like I mentioned, the two most important aspects are that the families really need to be deserving financially of this opportunity, and we want to see parents invested. So even if it's a single father or a single mother, that doesn't really matter to us. The fact is that there needs to be investment on their part, because this is a long journey that we undertake with each of these families, and their cooperation and participation is really very important.
What is your retention rate?
We have, over the years, our dropout rate has kind of come down to less than 3%. And in fact, even during COVID, in the last, between 2020 and 2022, March 2022, we just had 4 girls, dropping out, so to speak, because 2 of them migrated back to their native place, and 2 girls, on their own accord, they chose to get married. But the good thing with these 2 girls was that even though they got married, they continue to get educated in different schools and colleges. So that has been something that is at least reassuring. There's another part to the question, which is, do we plan to expand so we can take in more girls? Well, at the learning center, we are pretty much at full capacity, but like I was mentioning, our work with the public school system in the area in the years to come, we are sure will, enable us to work directly and indirectly with more girls. So the idea is that we now start strengthening the public school system in the area through infrastructure development, through teacher trainings, through, working on creating resources, teaching resources for them, and so that they are able to take in more children and, reach out to higher number of girls, because what the public school system can do, one organization certainly can't do. And the whole idea is to now enable that side of the spectrum.
I had a question sent directly to me. Do you include information about family planning in your curriculum?
Yes. So as a part of the conversations that we do with the mothers, as a part of our parental engagement project, we do have conversations on several aspects. Family planning is something that we don't do as a conscious project, but there are, whether when we are approaching it from the health perspective or financial planning perspective, so these are indirect ways of talking to them about family planning, because talking about family planning as a project in itself is extremely detailed and complex and requires expertise of a different level. So we don't directly do that, but yes, these are conversations that we have with with the mothers as well.
What about with the girls?
Yes, definitely. So sex education is something that we start quite in the middle school itself. Again, we try and partner with people in the country who are experts at working on this domain. So it is a very important part of our curriculum. So we work extensively on social emotional learning as well. So all of these aspects go into the overall academic intervention as well. What is the average family size? So the families that we normally work with have close to about 6 to 7 members. So it's essentially grandparents, the parents, and at least 3 to 4 or 5 children. And so that's the family size. And the average income is about $70 per family. And so it's usually 1 or 2 members who bring home the money, and it's then distributed across all of these different members.
Also during COVID, even these $70 per month that we're talking about an average, it really did go down. And, in some cases, they had to draw into their savings. So they were left with almost zero savings for the family. So that was a very, very devastating condition for them. And now once again, they are reaching out for jobs, but most of the men in the community do not have jobs because there is not much of an industry here. So they are like garbage pickers, or, they make some small products at home, informal industries. So the money that they get every month also varies. When the season is good, when there's a festival in the city or something, then they get more money. Otherwise, there may be months where they are not getting any income. So it's a very abysmal condition in this community.
I think that is all of the questions, Melinda, so we'll turn it back to you.
You're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute.
So sorry. I followed my own advice and put myself on mute. And I just want to thank both Vinita and
Manjusmita.
It is just so impressive, and to hear how you even go through that lengthy process of how you are able to dwindle down 1,200 applicants to the 100 that come in. It's so many decision points along the way, and you've made such smart decisions. And of course, you've done that because you've been in the world working in this field, and you come to this program with such vast experience. And I'm very impressed with what you've been able to do here. And now I just have some little announcements about Together Women Rise. But maybe should we all applaud having them? And we're just so thankful for what you have done in partnership with Together Women Rise. And just to remind everybody about the Giving Tuesday and the 95,000 match that ends on the 13th. It's also a nice way to introduce friends and family to Together Women Rise. Upcoming events, you can go to the website, but our next advocacy webinar is December 13th at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Our monthly webinar, the next one is in January 5th, which is the Pangea Network in Kenya. And the book club will return in 2023. Wendy was talking about that. And also, just thank you for being with us tonight. Happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you so much for having us on this. And any questions anyone has, maybe Wendy can just email that to us and we'll be very happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your evening, everyone.